Good morning, everyone. My name is Sergeant Kim Hill, and it's truly my pleasure to welcome you here today to join us in celebrating our special athletes. Let me just ask by a show of applause, who here is a fan of Special Olympics? That's pretty good for 9 o'clock in the morning, so thank you. What I have to admit is that I knew very little about Special Olympics and the athletes and the special events and activities and the law enforcement torch run prior to about a year ago when I began my assignment in community policing support. I was, however, fortunate enough to be able to attend my first Special Olympics Spring Games in Kingston this year with Deputy Chief Fletcher and Kingston's Chief of Police, Steve Tanner, who of course now is Chief of Police here in Halton. Truth be known, we just kidnapped him and brought Chief Tanner here, brought him back to Oakville, and I believe they're still looking for him as we speak. So that may be a reason why he's off in Israel today. But I think he's here to stay, so that's a good thing. But all kidding aside, what I can tell you is in 30 years of policing that I've never met a more wonderful group of people within the extended family of Special Olympics. From the athletes, their parents, coaches and fans, I have never been exposed to such a large group of people who are more passionate about living life to its fullest with a level of energy and enthusiasm that puts us all to shame. I've learned more from these athletes about what true sportsmanship, camaraderie, friendship, respect, and what living a life of dignity is all about. So I too have become a huge fan of Special Olympics. Today we've got several very special athletes and coaches and parents and some other distinguished guests joining us, and I'll be introducing them very soon. I would now like to turn the microphone over to Deputy Chief of Police Andrew Fletcher, who I've come to recognize as one of the strongest ambassadors of Special Olympics in the law enforcement community today. Deputy?
Thanks very much, Kim. Like you, I'm not so sure I need the symbols. We'll use the symbols here. First off, I'd like to begin by thanking Kim and all the members of the Community Policing Support Branch under Inspector Vanderley and his team for making this event happen this morning. It's truly a testimony to them and the energy that they show in support of so many of these great endeavors. And before we begin, I just want to recognize Deputy Chief Percy, who's joined us here this morning, and all the members of our police service who are here. It's a great outpouring of support from so many of you, so thank you for joining us. It's obviously a great pleasure for me to be here to represent Chief Steve Tanner and all the members of the police service. And as you've heard, Steve's away in Israel right now on a tour with the Simon Wiesenthal group, and we hope with all this going on over there that he's safe. And although I'm honored to be here, I'm also somewhat humbled to share the microphone with so many great people. People like Dr. Frank Hayden, who started the Special Olympics movement here in this province and this country, and a man who some of us would truly know as the grandfather of Special Olympics. So thank you, Dr. Hayden, for joining us this morning. And to our special athletes, James, Aaron, and the many Andrews, great name, their parents, their coaches, you are all amazing people, and we thank you for being a part of the ceremony this morning, so thank you for joining us. And of course, to retired Chief of Police from London Police Service, Chief Murray Faulkner, who has been such an integral supporter and contributor towards Special Olympics for many, many years. Thank you for making a long drive down on this foggy morning, Chief, and to show your continued support of such a great cause. So thank you for joining us. I know that so many of us are involved in so many great organizations and do so much to support a variety of good causes. But Special Olympics is one of those that I'm especially proud to be a part of. Through the law enforcement torch run and the partnerships that we enjoy here in Halton with our school boards, the region, and the many other community partners, I know that the flame of hope really does burn brightly here in Halton. For over 40 years, Special Olympics has demonstrated that through the power of sport, individuals with intellectual disabilities can and will succeed in life when given the opportunity to do so. Special Olympics helps reveal the champion within each of us, whether it's as a competitor, as a volunteer, a supporter, a coach, a parent. It really brings out the best in everyone. And I'm so proud of the many members of our police service and the police services from across this province and the country who today will wear the Special Olympics red laces, like those of us that are all wearing them, to demonstrate our support and strengthen the bond between our police organizations and those involved with Special Olympics. And to our special athletes, thank you for all that you do and the passion and excitement that you bring to Special Olympics. As Kim has mentioned, I had the opportunity to sit in that auditorium, and I was talking to Mary about it this morning last year in Kingston. And if you are not totally overwhelmed by the passion and the excitement that those athletes show and demonstrate when that torch runs into that stadium, nothing will ever grab you. And finally, to the men and women of the Halton Regional Police Service, thank you for showing your support for Special Olympics and for demonstrating your courage and leadership to wear the red laces support today. And I was telling Chief Faulkner on the way in here, I had the opportunity to stop at an accident scene this morning on the way in and was quite impressed when the two officers showing up got out of their cars and they were on the side of the road were helping me kick the debris off the side of the road with these red laces on our boots. I think there was a few people driving by wondering what was going on. But I truly, truly appreciate the courage and leadership that our members are showing by wearing these red laces of support today. You are truly making a difference in our community, and I thank each and every one of you for doing that. It's again been my pleasure to join you this morning, and I thank you for taking the time out of your day to be a part of this great ceremony. Thank you once again. Have a great day.
Thank you, Deputy. I'd now like to bring your attention to a gentleman seated with our distinguished guest who I was going to refer to him as the father of Special Olympics, but I'm thinking that's probably because I'm a little older than the Deputy Chief. But in the early 1960s, Dr. Frank J. Hayden challenged the belief held at that time that lower levels of physical fitness in children with intellectual disabilities was due to their disability. As a researcher and professor, Dr. Hayden proved that the low levels of fitness and lack of motor skills development were simply from them being excluded from physical activity and sports experiences available to other children. Inspired by his discoveries, Dr. Hayden partnered with colleagues that led to the creation of a sporting event known as Special Olympics. And in the United States in 1968 was the very first one, and not a year later, the Canadian Special Olympics event was born in Toronto in 1969. Today, the movement has grown to serve over 3.7 million persons with intellectual disabilities in over 170 countries around the globe. For his pioneering vision, research, drive, and determination, Dr. Hayden has received accolades and awards from all around the world, none the least of which are the Order of Ontario and the Order of Canada, our country's highest honor. And did I mention that he's a longtime resident of Halton Region, living in Burlington with his wife Mary, who's joining us today. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Frank J. Hayden to share a few words with us this morning.
Good morning, fellow fans. It's easy to see your fans just looking out on you. Thank you, Sergeant, and Chief Fletcher for arranging this. It's just typical of the law enforcement people and what they do. I can tell you, that the law enforcement torchman involved in the Special Olympics started in the United States quite a few years ago with the police chief in Kansas City. And then eventually it has found its way around the world as well. And when I was developing these programs around the world, in the later stages, I used to tell them about law enforcement torchman. And some countries that I went to, a number, I won't say which ones, they would say to me, the police, they'd say, run a torch down the main street? You got to be kidding, we won't make it 2 blocks. They don't have the respect in some countries that they certainly have here, and here in Halton. But even in those countries, eventually it happened, and it provided a wonderful bond and helped to overcome the difficulties and differences between certain parts of their community and the law enforcement people. In fact, in the end, those people they worried about were joining them on the run. There's a number of things that I hope will happen from BeAFan Day. And of course, here in Ontario, must take great credit because it started here and it worked out pretty well. It worked out well enough that the national organization decided to take it national. And so today, meetings like this and other events are happening all over the country. And I think we're at 40 different cities here in Ontario, and that's over half of the ones that are happening around the country. So it's just typical of the union with the chiefs of police and with the members of the law enforcement community. I hope the other thing that happens from today, that besides getting to know the athletes, besides getting to know coaches and volunteers and parents, a wonderful community that we're all part of, and besides maybe raising some money here and there, because there is a money-raising component with a lot of these, I hope above all that it gets to be a chance to learn what Special Olympics is really all about what we're supposed to do, and what we are. You know, people have different ideas about it. Some people got confused because I used the term Olympic to name it in the first place. And then I occasionally hear people say, well, the athletes really don't care whether they win or lose. It isn't important to them. I'm shaking my head. I said, you better come to an event and you'll see how important that is. And sometimes I see, have you seen that there's a commercial or public service thing on television the last few months? I see it every now and then, of actually all the athletes have Down syndrome. And one's running on a track and it stops, and somebody turns around, one of the runners, and sees that, goes back and helps them up, and then they all come back and help link arms and run down the track, and everybody says, isn't that wonderful? And I said, you gotta be kidding. I said, that doesn't happen. You know, that story started many years ago in California, and I'll tell you, it's a myth that happened, because somebody was using that as a promotional thing. So I talked to my people out in California. I said, did that really happen? And they said, no way that happened out here. So I hope that maybe today, especially through the folks like you that really know what Special Olympics is about, we can spread the word about really what happens. So again, Chief, I'm delighted to be here, delighted to see the Chief Emeritus from London here. Murray's a great example of making it big in Special Olympics. You know, he started with that and through law enforcement and torch run. He goes through that and then co-chairs the National Games in London a while ago, and now he's on the national board doing great work for us there as well. He's a true great example, probably the best in Canada, of the marriage between Special Olympics and law enforcement folks. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. It's so nice to see many of you again, you know, to be here. Have a great morning, have a great day. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Hayden. I'm now privileged to introduce three of our local special athletes who would like to share some words with us today. Now, in the past, I've not always done the best job of introducing them, as they've reminded me again and again at different times. So I'm not going to steal the thunder, but I'm going to have each one of them share some information with you today. I'd first like to call upon Mr. James Montague to the podium, and James is joined today by his father, Steve.
Good morning. I'm pleased to share with you the sport that I do with Special Olympics. I have been doing Special Olympics for 5 years. I've also been doing 5-pin bowling for 5 years with the Hawkeyes of Oakville. I bowl every week on Thursday night. In 2010, I started coaching on Wednesday nights. With the Hawkeyes, I also had the opportunity to bowl in tournaments throughout the Region 5 community. This spring, I was one of 5 to go to the Special Olympic Spring Games in Kingston. There were over 900 athletes there from across Ontario, competing in all different sports. All these activities, from like basketball, bowling, floor hockey, and swimming, are possible because of your donations that you make towards Special Olympics. The money raised from today will go towards the BeAFan campaign. So thank you all for your support that you have given Special Olympics. BeAFan Day was created to acknowledge all men and women of the law enforcement community who take part in the torch run every year. From polar pledges to world's largest truck convoys to plainclothes, more than 12,000 officers and other members of the law enforcement community joined together to champion the movement in Canada. The law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics made its Canadian debate in 1987. 25 years later, it has grown well beyond its being as well as a small grassroots effort, raising funds for awareness of Special Olympics in hundreds of communities across the province and the country. To show our gratitude, a big thank you goes out to the law enforcement team and the police officers of Halton region. Also, I'd like to thank you for all your help that you give us to our annual torch run. We would not be here today if it wasn't for the fantastic police officers that we have and that do so much for Special Olympics. I just have one question for all you police officers. I know Sergeant Andrew kind of agreed for this question that I'm going to ask you, and I hope it does happen. If and as we are from Special Olympics and ever need a police escort, can we get one? Or if it's possible to get one, that'd be great. Hopefully you all have a wonderful day, and thank you.
I'll get you an escort if you get me an iPad. If I could now ask Ms. Erin Bursey to share a few words with us. Erin's joined by her mother, Maureen, today. Erin?
Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Deputy Chief Flicker, Dr. Hayden, men and women of the Halton Police Service, Special Olympics staff, volunteers and families and friends. I am honored to speak today on behalf of my fellow Special Olympics athletes for BeAFan Day. As you can see, I'm a fan. Anybody else? All right. Me too. I'm a fan of the Halton Police Force. All the work they put into raising money and awareness for Special Olympics Ontario. The torch run has been a yearly event of Phil for 25 years. Almost has heard up I am. The police staff and officers carry the flame of hope to roads and cities right across Ontario. for us. I had the privilege of carrying that torch. Good thing it wasn't a hot day. When I was in grade 12, I remember it was a wonderful experience. Walking side by side with my friends from Special Olympics and phone and the police force together. It's kind of the chant, like the chant of the people united and never be divided. I've always been proud to be part of the Torch Run. My family, my friends, and have taken part in the one out at last 15 years to show our gratitude for what you do. Because of your support, we have some really good sports programs in Halton. I belong to 5-pin bowling club that has sent many athletes to the Canadian Championships. I am also rhythmic gymnast, and our Oakville Butterflies sent 4 athletes to the Special Olympics in Athens in 2011. The gymnasts brought home gold and silver medals in every category. Really wonderful. The clubs and many more now couldn't continue without ongoing financial support for the cost of equipment, uniforms, and travels to meets, and rents for our practice space. How can we not be a fan of the people who make these things possible? For me and most of my friends, we may never be world-class athletes, but even so, Special Olympics programs have brought a lot into my life. More friends, better fitness, and more fun. Something to look forward to. On Mondays or Thursday nights, and the itself is big. I suppose this doesn't mean much to most folks, but to have something to do, someplace to go, not always at home watching TV. That means a lot to me. So for my fellow Special Olympics athletes, I want to say how grateful we are. It makes us, for your help, it makes a big difference to us athletes, as we make a difference to our families, and it makes us stronger as a community. We are fans. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me this morning.
Thank you, Aaron. That was wonderful. If I could now ask Andrew Bolshevny to join us here to say a few words, and Andrew's here with his father, Ron, today. So Andrew, come forward, please.
First of all, I will say to all the Halton Police Force, thank you for guiding us through all those years. Thank you for your support. And to you as well, that 1 year, me and him did our torch run together. My name is Andrew, and I have been in Special Olympics for almost 15 years. I have made many friends through my sports. We get together after our sports and have fun hanging out just like everyone else. I play basketball, hockey, and bowling in winter. In spring and summer, I enjoy soccer and track and field. My coaches are all really nice and have taught me many things. One of the most important things I have learned is good sportsmanship. My friends and I always try hard to win our games and to lose. But even when we don't, we still have a lot of fun. I have gone to tournaments all over Ontario. Last year, my hockey team made it to the provincial games in Sudbury. And a few years ago, I went to the Peterborough games for basketball. It is so exciting to go to tournaments and travel on the bus with my team. Playing sports keeps me healthy and active. I get to go out with my friends and do things on weekends, just like my brother and sister do with their friends. I have met a lot of people and have made some great experiences through my sports. Everywhere I go, people recognize me. My parents say I know more people than they do. I am so glad to be part of Special Olympics in Oakville. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. As you've seen and heard from our special athletes, they live very busy and demanding lives that would not be possible without the support, encouragement, and love from their parents, family, friends, coaches, and other supporters in the community. From all that I've learned about Special Olympics over the past year, I've come to recognize that many of the parents of special athletes are not only their biggest fans, but in many cases, their coaches as well. Their job is 24/7, 365 days a year, and they do it all with a quiet, humble spirit. Representing the parents and coaches of Special Olympics, please join me in thanking and welcoming parent and coach Mary Neighbors to the podium to share some thoughts with us and also present a very special plaque. And I did just want to mention that Mary's joined today by her son Andrew, who is about as big a fan of police officers as I am of special athletes. So thank you for coming today, Andrew, as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary. I'm a volunteer for Special Olympics for many years. And I'm really grateful today to be coming and attending to represent Special Olympics at the BeAFan Events 2012 with you all. I'm so happy also to hear our founder, Dr. Frank. Thank you for your wonderful work. And thank you also to our athletes who represent area. And also I want to take a moment to thank all the volunteers and all the parents who had supported all the Special Olympics through all the events. And BeAFan campaign is a national announcing for and fundraising for Special Olympics. So please participate by wearing red laces. Like everyone. And also we wanna express a special thanks to Canada's law enforcement community for not only sponsor this event, but for their support, dedication, and commitment to the Canadian Special Olympics for the last 25 years. And at last, I would like to present as a symbol of our gratitude to the Canadian law enforcement community, to this award to the Chief Fletcher.
Thank you very much, Mary. I just want to take a moment and recognize several other special athletes who are here with us to help celebrate today. A lot of them are working full-time and going to school and could not be available, so they sent their regrets. But I did just want to mention that we have Natalie Johnson here today with her mom and dad, Rick and Jan, and we have Kyle Stewart. Kyle, thank you for coming. Your mom, Fran. And Kim Sullivan is here in the front row. Thank you for coming, Kim. Jeff McDonald, thank you for coming. And Sister Brenda for chauffeuring today, so thank you very much. Are there any other special athletes that I failed to mention or recognize? Okay. It's now my pleasure to introduce retired Chief of Police of the London Police Service, Murray Faulkner. Chief Faulkner, who is also the former chair of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police Executive Torch Run Committee, has been asked to say a few words and make a presentation. Chief Faulkner.
Thank you, Sergeant. Chief, Deputy Chief, Senior Command Officers, fellow police officers, staff of Halton Regional Police Service, coach, athletes, and friends of Special Olympics. The first hat I'll wear is that of on the national board. Thank you, Sergeant, for putting the agenda together. I hate speaking after athletes because no one really wants to listen to you because they do grab all the spotlight. They did a terrific job. And I will say, when you said, young lady, that you may not be a world-class athlete, the point about it is you're a world-class person, and that's why we support you and all you do. From a national perspective, I've had the ability now for the last 4 years to see what happens across Canada. So it's given me a different perspective than what I know from the province of Ontario. But this whole concept of BeAFan and having the red laces really started here in Ontario with Glenn McDonnell, the Executive Director of the Special Olympics Movement. Cody here is a big supporter of the law enforcement torch run that most police officers in this province know. And so Glenn and I attended a national executive board in Montreal a number of months ago and proposed this concept to the chiefs across Canada, which they fully endorsed. And so our hope was that there are no greater fans in the Special Olympic movement in Canada than the police community. And that's why we wanted to support and recognize the work of police officers all across Canada for their valuable work in raising funds, but also raising awareness for Special Olympic athletes. With that said, how can we get a bigger bang for our buck as far as attention? And so not only police will be wearing the red laces today, but all members in our federal parliament have been given red laces. Prime Minister today, if you tweet his account, you will see that he's talking about the red laces that he's wearing, as well as I met with the Minister of National Defense a couple of weeks ago, who has a family member that's involved in Special Olympics and is a big promoter of the movement in Nova Scotia, and he wants to wear the red laces. There are 12 elected members in the federal government that were police officers. So there's 12 of us there now, and they all have been given red laces to wear. So nationally, we should get some good publicity out of this movement. So that's really how we're going to capture the media's attention. The last thing I want to say in a national perspective, till I put on my hat from Ontario, is that at the national board, we talk a lot about corporate sponsorship. And so some of the large corporate sponsors that support the movement across Canada are entities like Toyota Canada, Royal Bank of Canada, the Globe and Mail, Home Hardware, Wolseley, just to name a few, which are very successful businesses. But understand that if you put all their funding together, cash and value in kind, all corporate sponsors don't come close to what the police community does across Canada. Don't come close. So of the $2.8 million in 2011, the $3.1 in 2010, nobody in the movement is greater father than the police community across Canada. That being said, putting on my Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police retirement hat and the law enforcement torch run. That being said, if it wasn't for the law enforcement torch run in this province, Special Olympic movement would not have 16,000 athletes. The funds that you raise account for about 30% of the operating funds required to run the movement in Ontario. And so the movement here is so integral to the success. Nationally, we want to double the number of athletes in 5 years. And Ontario is going to play a big part in moving those numbers to where we want to see them. Now this year also marks a very special year for the police movement. This is the 60th anniversary of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, and of course the 25th anniversary of the law enforcement torch run here in Ontario. And one of the reasons I wanted to come to Halton before I went to this smaller service called Peel, kind of up the highway, is that this entity has a very special connection with the law enforcement torch run. And that's through Peter Campbell, who was one of the very first chairs of the law enforcement torch run many years ago, before I was born. But Halton has always been a strong supporter of the movement. And so, so whether it's the national hat I wear or from the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police or 23 years connected with the torch run, because I started with the torch run when I was a constable. And although everyone says, well, you only got to the chief because of the torch run, and I said, yeah, that's probably true, but I know because my abilities aren't any greater than anybody else's. The point is, Ontario law enforcement torch run drives the movement across Canada. And so rich provinces like Alberta and British Columbia have a long way to go to catch up to where we are today, but we need to even get bigger. So I'm here to say thank you. Thank the law enforcement community. I'm here to say thank you to the parents, to the athletes, to Chief for hosting the event today. It is so important, so important. And one of the other organizations I raise funds for, I use as a motto, is that giving is the rent we pay for a place on this earth. Giving is the rent we pay for a place on this earth. And so I thank you for giving your time, your talent, your treasures to such a very, very important movement. And so it's my honor to present one of the very first books, an anniversary book from the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, 25th anniversary of the Law Enforcement Torch Run Chief and Halton Regional Police, and also to Dr. Frank Cade. Come forward and I'd like to present both of these books.
Thank you, Chief. As we now close off the formal part of the program, I invite all of you to stay here with us to enjoy a time of fellowship with our athletes and our police members. We'll have our special guests here at the front are going to pause for a bit just for photo opportunities. So anybody who has a camera, you can come forward and take some photos, as well as any of the local media personnel who are here as well. And after the photo opportunity, we'll be joining you at the back of the room for some light snacks and pastries and refreshments. And all I can say is thank you all for coming, and it's good to see that all of you too can be a fan of Special Olympics. So thank you.